Bill Robert Chevrolet Pace Truck heads back out on the track, and we welcome you back to Lucas Oil Speedway in Wheatland, Missouri. Show Me Vintage Racers back to Lucas Oil Speedway as they roll into town a couple of times a year. A very unique class in a sense that these are all cars that are all, as you can tell, vintage cars. For the most part, they all work on the cars together, make sure they can get out whenever they roll into a track, even if there is some issues. And this tonight here at Lucas Oil Speedway, the Mickey Fleehart Memorial Fan Appreciation Night. Mickey Fleehart was the club president who passed away this past March. So a special evening for all of the drivers as they pay recognition to Mickey Fleehart, getting ready to get this underway as this is the 20th year of this series. After the redraw for the Show Me Vintage Racers, Eddie Neal will earn the top spot in row number 1. He's out of Sibley, Missouri. Brian Cox will start outside of him from Concordia in the 2B. Car 54, Larry Waters and Jim Thorne back in row number 2. The Rooster, Tom Charles, won his heat race out of Walcott, Kansas. He starts inside row number 3 with Damon Clevenger from Parkville in the 6 outside of him. Jim Seward out of Belton, Missouri, starts back in 7th. Jeremy Turner, the stud puppy from St. Joe, will start in 8th. Chad Eichelberry was scheduled to start in 9th. His car caught fire, and right now he is not out on the track, so he will not be able to make the call tonight. Brandon Jordan to his outside in 10th, and it's Mike Lawless and Danny Lorton who didn't make the heat. He was up here working in the booth earlier on this evening. He's our general manager here at Lucas Oil Speedway, scheduled to start in 12th. Pull the trigger, Jeff Triggs from Wayne, Nebraska, starts inside row number 7. And the 8 ball of Rocky Roads to his right-hand side. Rob Brash, Dan Schmidt, Angela Ashworth, and Willie Houlihan will be back in row number 9. That row 9 is a mother-son duo.
I didn't know what she's going to say there for a second.
We are rated G here on MAV TV. Out of turn number 4, the Show Me Vintage Racers roar to life.
As they come around, this time going to sloop it around over in turn number 2. That is the 5 of Eddie Neal from Sibley, Missouri. Gets turned around.
Get all stacked and packed. Also in that's Giant Bryant Moyer in the 9D. Trying to check out who that last car was.
Hope it wasn't Danny Lorton.
It is not. I know what Danny's car looks like. Eddie Neal in that 1954 Commander. It's a Kenny Price chassis. He got spun from the top spot. The 9D is Giant Bryant Moyer from Lone Jack. And the Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew probably going to take them a few minutes to get these 3 cars unwound, as that third car is the number 99 involved in Jim Seward from Belton, Missouri. So it'll take a while to get the vintage racers unconnected from one another as they are all wadded together in turn 1 on the opening lap. We'll have 15 laps remaining for the Show Me Vintage Racers when we return here on Night of Speed. Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew doing the final touches on the 3 cars involved. We mentioned the last car involved in that was Jim Seward. He started all the way back in 7th and just piled into the action going on up in front of him. But they do now have all 3 cars separated, and they'll get them stacked and packed side by side back to their original formation for a restart/start, as we had yet to get a lap in. The Show Me Vintage Racers, Doug, obviously it's not necessarily easy to find parts and pieces for cars like these that are replicas of 35 Ford Coupes, 63 Ford Fairlane, 72 Plymouth Dusters, an 84 Monte Carlo, a 68 Camaro, a 39 Chevy Master 85, and I'll tell you about what the Master 85 is momentarily. And talking to one of the drivers, he said, this is a money bucket.
Yep.
And it's not easy to fix them once they get bent. So they try to keep them as straight as they can, drive it onto the trailer if at all possible. I mean, Chad Eichelberry earlier on, his car caught fire in his heat race, so that didn't happen. And we have seen cars get destroyed in this class. But for the most part, they all race clean. They don't get into one another because they know what it takes to fix their own, and they don't want to have to make someone else fix it too.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's costly to fix these things, like you said. You either have to find the part, and that means you're scouring a bunch of junkyards somewhere around, hopefully finding that part, or you have to get it manufactured.
Saw the car stop there on the front stretch. That's Willie Houlihan, the 72 Plymouth Duster, his very first race, and that is the mother-son duo that we told you about in the opening. Rodney Ashworth has ran late models here before, has had some health issues, but he's doing fine now. But this is the first race for both his wife, Angela, and his son in Willie. And Willie having to get a push from the Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew. Angela told me before the race that she stole this car from her husband. This is actually his spare car that he runs, the number 1A that's out on the track. So Angela is piloting it, the 1955 Chevy, for her first racing action here. They really wanted to make it a family affair, but Rodney just wasn't able to make it. So as the yellow light has turned off, green flag in the hand of the Wheatland Outlaw Magic Mike Striegel through turns 3 and 4. Eddie O'Neill was involved in that opening lap incident. He will get him underway again, and they split him both on the outside and the inside. Eddie O'Neill's back to 3rd, 4th, 5th. That's where he'll end up after that opening turn. One car gets up into the muck. That's the 11 of stud puppy Jeremy Turner that got up and over the cushion. As a 2-car breakaway, now in turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like the 2B of Brian Cox and the 113 of Jim Thorne. Tonganoxie, Kansas for Thorne, and Cox, Concordia, Missouri. And they are in the top of the pack. But here comes the Rooster. The Rooster is crowing big, the 81 of Tom Charles.
And a caution comes out as Rocky Road, the 8-ball, up on the top side of turn number 3. Brings out the Boone's Barbecue caution. And the lead car in the 113 dumping fuel or dumping something out the back end. Pretty nasty flow coming out the back end of the 113.
Well, Tom Charles, the veteran of racing in the Kansas City area, has moved himself into 2nd spot. He started 5th and now has moved himself into 2nd. Now the 113 of Jim Thorne is off. That means Charles is on the point, but they have to go back a lap, so we'll see where they place him at here tonight.
Yeah, not sure what's going on with the 113, but he was on the last 2 laps. You could see something just gushing out the back end of that car. Don't know if it was fuel or what it might be, but he was leaking out pretty bad. May not be able to get that cover off.
Well, we're going to find out here shortly, as our track crew are going to check him out.
Maybe welded down. Not sure what it is with that car, but certainly something not quite right on there.
And I'm assuming, Shane, that's probably where the gas tank is at in the back. So you may be correct. That, of course, the 113 of Jim Thorne. Tonganoxie, Kansas, where he calls home.
Yeah, they are still working on the 8-ball of Rocky Roads on the top side of turn number 2. Got a couple laps in as they continue to do work on that car and continue to work on a Rocky Roads car on the top side of turn 2. Shame on you, he says. Shame on somebody.
Not for sure who.
Well, about ready to get Rocky Roads car taken care of. We're going to step aside again here and let the Hobby Time Motorsports safety crew do what they do best and take care of the 8-ball. Get him back into the pit area. We've got 2 laps down, 13 still remain here for the Show Me Vintage Racers at Lucas Oil Speedway. Back to Lucas Oil Speedway here on MAV TV, Night of Speed. And speaking of speed, that's the Missouri Missile, Danny Lorton. He's our general manager here at Lucas Oil Speedway. With this series running on Saturday nights mostly, and him having a full-time job here, he's not really able to participate all that much. And the times that he has tried to make it, they've either had rain or he's had car issues. So Danny Lorton back out on the track. We were toying around with calling him Lightning Lorton. And then he said, yeah, someone gave him the nickname the Missouri Missile, but it wasn't necessarily for a good thing. He was in a wreck, and his car shot straight up in the air.
Yeah, he was in Bloomfield, Iowa, I believe is what he said. And he got in a wreck, got sideways, and the car shot up the embankment, and they called him the Missile.
Jim Thorne out in front in the 113. He's got Brian Cox back behind him, green flag in the air. We've got 2 laps down, 13 laps remain. Back underway as the Show Me Vintage Racers get back after it. And the Rooster now looking to the inside. That yellow number 81, a 360-time career winner in Tom Charles, battles for second.
Tom Charles, the Rooster, coming around in that second spot. It is the 113 that belongs to Jim Thorne. Tonganoxie, Kansas, your leader. Now as they come through car 54, Larry Waters, the Kansas City, Kansas native, in that car 54, the police car rolling around here today. As it says car 54, where are you on the side? Well, we know right where he's at. He is challenging for third spot here tonight.
Buford T loses the spot to the 2D of Brandon Jordan. Brandon Jordan, the wild man out of Pineville, Missouri, in a 1942 Ford with 2 top 5s on the season. And the Rooster starts to reel in the 113 of Jim Thorne. That 1935 Ford Coupe about ready to be overtaken by that 63 Ford Fairlane. It's all blue oval power in the front 2 positions with Tom Charles and Brandon Jordan.
Thorne as your leader, the 113 as they come around this time. But it is Tom Charles, the 81 on the inside. He looks to the inside out of turn number 3. He's not going to make it at the line this time. Into 1 and 2. Tom Charles on the inside. Thorne on the outside. They go down the back straightaway. Thorne can pull away. He's got more horsepower, but in the corner, better handling by the 81 as they come out of turn number 4 this time. Charles with the advantage, cannot take advantage of it.
Bigger body, bigger wheelbase for the Rooster. Tom Charles to the inside. Whips it around through turns 1 and 2. Still unable to make the pass on the 113 of Jim Thorne.
At the halfway point, and smoke off the back of the 113 of Thorne, your leader. It is the 81 of Tom Charles in that second. Now traffic coming up. That is the 58 car of Jeff Triggs. Triggs, who did well in his heat, coming around now in the back of the pack as they come around. This time it is the 113 of Thorne, the 81 of Charles.
And they go and put Jeff Triggs a lap down, and Triggs in the 58 had a very good heat race earlier on this evening. Not quite showing it here in the A main. 10 down, 5 to go. Washing up the track is Jim Thorne. Opens the door for Charles to the inside. Tom Charles, he and his son were featured drivers back on a reality show, Heartland Thunder, on the Discovery Channel back in 2010. They built Clint Boyer's first modified car. Was featured in that. He survived a horrible crash at Thunder Hill back in 2012. Came back as he was the driver of the decade for the 1990s by the Jayhawk Racing Journal. And it's become a 3-car battle now as the 2D of Brandon Jordan is now up in the mix. 2 laps to go, and it'll be a 3-car shootout. Does Brandon Jordan have enough to split the wicket? Looks in between Charles to the inside and Thorne to the outside. Charles to the lead. Contact with the open-wheel cars, and a white tire goes flailing to the inside of the track. That's going to knock the 2D out of the picture of Brandon Jordan. He has to drop to the infield. On the white flag lap, it was a 3-car battle, but at the line, it goes to the Rooster, Tom Charles.